Have you ever heard of someone named Narcissus? Oh, trust me, his story makes Instagram influencers look like amateurs. Buckle up, because you owe it to this guy who will save you from embarrassing yourself even before you get the guts to slide into your crush's DMs and end up being left on scene. Ow. Ouch. My beloved subscribers, welcome all to the inaugural episode of the best, most important, and greatest channel ever, the Nova Briefcase channel, presented in response to popular demand by me, one of the best, most handsome, and top G, the GOAT, the big boss of the elite. Let's just say when greatness calls, I'm always on speed dial. I personally love me very much. I find myself to be a kind, respectful, and a gentle person, and not selfish, not shallow, not arrogant, not conceited, and not narcissistic, like Narcissus, whom the Roman poet Ovid spoke of in his poem Metamorphoses, written in the year 8 AD. He told us the Greek myth of the young Narcissus, who, like myself, was extremely handsome and charming. His beauty was so great that all the girls melted in his love. In fact, even some young men melted away. Despite his breathtaking beauty, he rejected all the girls who loved him, including the nymph of the forest. Imagine a nymph loving you and you rejecting her because you believe she's not good enough for you. His behavior angered a punitive force, which took revenge on him and cursed him. And one day the handsome young man went to drink from a lake. When he looked at the water, he saw his reflection. He fell in love with himself and remained in his place, admiring himself. He remained in that position until the last breath left his lips. Let's face it, a little self-love is good for the soul, but dude, this is self-obsession. In the spot where he died, a graceful yellow flower emerged, named after him, the Narcissus flower. The legendary character of Narcissus is the namesake of what is known today as Narcissistic Personality Disorder, NPD. The renowned Austrian psychologist Sigmund Freud, known for his theories on the ID, ego, and superego, said that narcissism is a natural phenomenon in a child's developmental stages, but can be considered a disorder if the child fails to outgrow it after puberty. This means that narcissistic traits are something we all start with as children, but if we don't manage to overcome them, we develop this disorder. This was according to him. He's a doctor and famous and all, you know. In psychology, a narcissistic person exhibits arrogance, believing themselves to be exceptionally unique, very special, and that no one can understand them unless they are a genius like them, not by just ordinary individuals. Therefore, they exaggerate their accomplishments and talents, occupying themselves with fantasies of achieving success, unlimited power, and perfect love, developing an illusionary mindset of all eyes on me and me against the world attitude. So when faced with a bad situation, they do not feel it is their fault, but rather perceive themselves as victims, a misunderstood. Despite all these qualities that make you say that this narcissistic person is very bad and that all people always hate them, but on the contrary, my dear subscriber, at least initially, it's very easy for them to establish new friendships because they have a high charisma, and sometimes because they care about their body and appearance. This is at first when your relationship is still superficial. You will be impressed by them and actually happy to know them. Researchers Stacy Campbell and Keith Campbell say that there is a stage called the emerging zone, which is the beginning of friendships, where the narcissistic person easily manages to make people admire them. They know how to give great first impressions, perhaps even better than people with emotional intelligence. But after passing through that stage of the relationship, where a stage called the enduring zone begins, the relationship between you and the narcissistic person develops and deepens. The narcissistic traits start to show and their scent becomes apparent. They constantly need admiration and appreciation, wanting their relationship with their friends to be like the relationship between a VIP or some kind of celebrity superstar and their fans. For this exact reason, narcissists may intentionally surround themselves with weak victims who are easy to control. No offense intended. Moreover, narcissistic individuals enjoy belittling others and criticizing them, focusing on their insecurities, even though they themselves cannot accept criticism at all and get very upset. Sometimes can't even take a joke. Delroy Paulhus conducted an experiment on this subject. He brought a group of people together and had them talk to each other once a week for 7 weeks, 20 minutes each time. He asked them to evaluate each other in the first week and then in the final week. The result was that in the first week, people found narcissistic individuals to be confident, entertaining, and intelligent. But by the 7th week, the evaluation completely changed, finding them arrogant, conceited, and aggressive. And not only friendships, but also romantic relationships are prone to issues with narcissistic individuals. Some studies say that romantic relationships with narcissistic individuals do not last more than 4 months. That's it. Narcissistic individuals have problems in face-to-face relationships, yet in social media, the situation is different. They adore social media. They love it. It's basically their Disneyland, their paradise, because they leverage it to their advantage to present their personality in the perfect way they desire, through filters and edits that enhance their appearance even more. You find them bragging and showing off with dozens of mirror selfies. Social media provides the confirmation and validation they need from people to know their status. For that, they master the art of being noticeable to attract engagement through clickbaits for likes, reactions, shares, and comments, where phony presentations often reign supreme. The same thing applies to online games. In a study conducted on 1,500 individuals from South Korea, it was found that narcissistic people are more prone to addiction to games such as World of Warcraft. Such games, for instance, are considered a safe zone for the narcissistic person because they can level up and accumulate more experience points and weapons, aiming to become a powerful figure and achieve a prominent status among gamers in this virtual world. This is something narcissistic individuals greatly enjoy. However, somewhat surprisingly, despite all their flaws, narcissistic people can be more successful than non-narcissistic people. The belief of narcissistic personalities in their superiority over others instills in them a high level of determination. In a study conducted on 300 narcissistic students in Italy, it was found that compared to their actual intelligence level, they achieved good grades. In contrast, students who were equally intelligent but not narcissistic received lower grades. Even those with higher intelligence and not narcissistic did not achieve those grades. Furthermore, a narcissist's conviction that they are the most suitable for leadership can indeed make them effective leaders. Many leaders and rulers throughout history are speculated to have possibly been narcissistic, such as Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Donald Trump. Ronald DeLuca. Nah. The last guy isn't your average narcissist. He's actually the psychologist who conducted the following study. Ronald DeLuca, a professor of psychology at Bryant University, collaborated with a group of psychology experts. He asked them to assess American presidents in terms of narcissism, classifying whether they were narcissistic or not, and the severity of their narcissism. Then he collaborated with another group of history experts who were asked to assess American presidents in terms of their competence and charisma. So, my dear subscriber, after reviewing the results of the psychologist's evaluations and comparing them to the results of the evaluations of achievements, DeLuca found that the most narcissistic presidents were the most effective, creative, and charismatic. Michael Jacoby, an anthropologist, holds a PhD from Harvard University and is an expert in leadership. He suggests that individuals in leadership positions need to have a dose of narcissism. Possessing a certain degree of narcissism is necessary, not pathological, not a disorder, but a healthy amount to be a successful leader. He terms them productive narcissists, and cites examples of prominent Silicon Valley figures such as Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Andy Grove from Intel, who contributed to the launch of the first microprocessor. These are, according to him of course, productive narcissists. Hearing this, you might have started to develop a sort of fondness for narcissism. You might say, yes, I want to be like Bill Gates, I want to be like Donald Trump, or you might hate it, saying, I don't want to be like that, or I don't want my children to be like that. Part of the issue is related to genetics, and there's nothing we can do about that, at least for now. The other part is where we can intervene because it's related to upbringing. Parents unintentionally might spoil their children, unintentionally raising and molding them into narcissistic personalities with excessive indulgence and compliments. Many parents try to encourage their children and build their self-confidence by praising them excessively. For instance, they might praise a child's drawing, even if it's just a scribble or poorly written words. "What a beauty!" Or, "How clever you are." The point here is not to discourage praising children altogether, but to understand that there are different types of praise, some helpful and some harmful. According to psychologists, there's what's called person praise, where you praise the child's person directly. "You're amazing, you're great, you're unique." This, my dear subscriber, can be harmful. On the other hand, there's process praise, where you praise the child's performance or the way they worked on something. "You did a good job, you played that smartly, you finished it quickly." This type of praise can boost the child's self-esteem without making them believe they're superior to others, or that it's necessary to be better than others to deserve such recognition. An experiment was conducted on this matter. They brought 300 children together and let them play a game. They gave one group of children person praise, while the other group was given process praise, praising their performance during the game. The results showed that children who received person praise felt ashamed when they lost, because they believed that they were only good as individuals if they won. Whereas children who received process praise might have felt a little upset when they lost, but they considered it normal, not a big deal. Moreover, not only praise but also the cultural environment in which a child grows up can contribute to increasing narcissism. Of course, we all have narcissism to some extent, but being in a particular cultural environment can exacerbate it. Some researchers say that individualistic societies, which focus on the individual like Western and capitalist societies, have a higher rate of narcissism compared to collectivistic societies, which prioritize the group and community like Eastern or communist societies. After Hitler's defeat in World War II and the fall of Germany, the Allies came in and divided it. Britain, France, and America took 2/3 of Germany and implemented a capitalist democracy, naming it West Germany. The Soviet Union took the remaining third and established communist dictatorship, naming it East Germany. This situation continued for generations, and the division was so severe that even the city of Berlin was divided by a wall. This was considered a significant experiment for studies of narcissism. One nation and one culture, but part of it lived under communism, and the other part lived under capitalism. And indeed, they found that the rates of narcissism were higher among Germans who grew up in capitalist West Germany compared to those who were raised in communist East Germany. Other studies continued these experiments and found that rates of narcissism in a country like the United States are higher than those in regions such as the Middle East. Ultimately, dear subscriber, we may not like narcissistic people. That's natural. No one likes arrogant, toxic behavior. We don't appreciate the intensity in their interactions, nor do we like the narcissistic belief that they are superior to others, including us. We don't appreciate their exaggerated desire to be the center of the universe and the focus of attention. The list of red flags is long, but in the end, all of these are likely outcomes of factors they often can't control. It could be genetics they inherited, or a specific environment they grew up in. These are all symptoms of a mental disorder they're suffering from, an illness, much like depression. They need help. Here, in my personal opinion, there's an ethical dilemma. How do we deal with this person? Do we tolerate and contain them, or do we avoid them and set boundaries or even cut them out of our lives? It's a very interesting question. Unless you are in an intimate relationship with a narcissist, I believe we should tolerate them, adapt to their behaviors, and coexist with them. Subscribe to their channels, leave likes and comments, so they show up more in your feed and others as well. After all, they love to be seen by people.